We're on. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Steve Higgs, and I'm here to talk about voice AI, which you can use to create audiobooks and all sorts of other things. I'm going to start, and hopefully the technology is going to work, by playing a sample.
Panic set in, and so she dug. One shovel of earth after the next, speckles of mud flecking her sweat-slicked face and scattering across the ground cover. The scent of freshly turned earth mingled with the redolence of moss and detritus. The shadow lingered over her shoulder, watching, his silhouette spread toward her like a puddle of ink. Her hands were blistered, her breath coming in scattered gasps. She needed to hurry, she knew that much. She needed to find it before her daughter returned home from school. She could picture little Sophie.
Now, it did occur to me that I could just play like a 20-minute thing and I could get away with talking for the majority of this. That's a machine. It doesn't come through here because there's too much background noise, but that machine is breathing. You can hear the breaths being taken between the words. I think that's pretty good for a machine. I actually think it's better than a human. I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why I think that. Oh, is it going to work? There we go. So, just sticking with audiobooks. Back behind the mic, Steve. Just sticking with audiobooks briefly. $200 per finished hour is a pretty good price. You can certainly pay a lot more than that. You can pay less if you want, but if you're paying voice actors to produce your audiobook for you, to narrate it, you're not going to get much of quality for less than $200 per finished hour. So for a 60,000 word book, you are $3,000 in. And for a 10-book series, you're looking at forking out $30,000, which is quite a bit of an outlay. And you've then got to sell enough copies of those audiobooks to recoup that cost. And I know from talking to people that some people just don't produce audiobooks because they cannot afford it, because they know that thousands upon thousands of dollars is actually quite difficult to recoup because you're not selling that many copies to start with. And so they don't produce audiobooks. How about $50? Yeah. $50 for a lot of people makes it more realistic. It's more realistic as a price. You can produce an audiobook for, if I said you can produce an audio for $50, that's a price that you can afford. Because let's say you're seeing some success and you've got your English language audiobooks out, but you then want to translate your books into German or French, Japanese, whatever language you want to pick. The audiobook production, yet again, for that 60,000 word novel is $3,000 or more. And now the market's smaller. You produce an audiobook in English, and you've got the American market, the Australian market. You go German market is much, much smaller. So your ability to recoup that $30,000 you spent on your 10-book series now, that's actually quite prohibitive. And so we're not talking $30,000 anymore. We're going to do German, French, and Italian. So you're now $120,000 for your audiobooks for that 10-book series that you've written. Who's got that as chump change sitting around? And you've got to try and recoup it. Time consideration. How long does it take to produce an audiobook? Weeks? Months? You might have to wait for them to get started. Now, in some genres, lit RPG, I think more than any other. If you're not aware, audiobook in lit RPG is potentially 80-ish% of your income, because that genre, for whatever reason, is very, very big on audiobooks. So you want the specific names. Like you want James L. Jones, because you've written a military sci-fi, and he's Darth Vader. So you wait to get James L. Jones. So you're going to put your ebook out and along with your paperback on September 1st, how long do you wait for the audiobook? Because on September 1st, that book drops and you've got pre-orders and you've got things, you've got Amazon pushing it and your fans are buying it and it's raced up the chart. So you've got organic sales happening because your book is as high in the chart probably as it's ever going to be. But you don't actually produce the audiobook for 6 months, by which time everyone's forgotten about it. Because it takes time to produce the audiobook. It does. Because you've got a human doing it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you've got a human do it, and they take time. And I had one series of my books, and it was a 10-book series of a cozy mystery, and this probably won't happen to anyone else, but between book 9 and book 10, my audiobook producer died. So I never got book 10, and I was trying to push out a 10-book series. I don't think the machine will die. Instead of weeks and months, how about 6 to 8 hours? As things stand now, I can take your manuscript and give you back your audiobook probably by dinner today. And it's done. And you own the rights. Right, live demonstration. Let's hope this works. And I haven't actually tested this. And if it doesn't work, which it doesn't, I'm going to now jump across and then jump back. Oh dear. Let's see if it works now. Here we go. No, it's logging back on. You're connected, right. Are you going to do it? My apologies. I should have tested this better. We're going to try one more time. Please? If I beg, will you work? It's doing something. Please bear with me. So 11 Labs is just one of many voice AI platforms. Now, I can't show you all of them. I'm not endorsing them, and I'm not affiliated with them or any other voice AI platform. I got turned on to this by Michael Anderle when I was with him in Amsterdam earlier this year. And he was talking about how good some of these platforms were, and they've improved since then. They're getting better all the time. So in there, you can see I picked a voice, Nightly, dapper and deep narrator, and we'll look at voices in a minute. On this tool, you drop in some text. Now, I've just taken a little sample thing there to demonstrate this. That's straight from one of my books. And I'm going to hit click, generate. And this is how easy it is to produce voices, hopefully within a couple of seconds.
Each came from behind, making him jump just as he placed his hand on the door handle to his room. Hoping his heart would restart shortly, Albert turned to find Mrs. Worsley 10 feet behind him with her hands clamped to her head. He didn't have to ask what caused the look of horror currently displayed on her face. The line of oily dog prints was clear for anyone to see. Albert said, "Oh dear. This is a wool carpet," Mrs. Worsley exclaimed. "I'll have to get it professionally cleaned." Her hands were still stuck to her head as if glued there.
That's how quick it is. And so you would take your chapter and you would drop it in there and you would press go and it spits out a chapter within seconds and you download it and you've got to do a couple of other bits and pieces, but essentially within a few hours you've got your audiobook. So let's see if I can get back to this. It is no more complex than I have just shown you. Sorry, I'm going to have to click through a couple of things. Right. What else can you do with it? Because it's not just about audiobooks. Dual POV. Sorry, back to audiobooks. Dual POV. So you've written a romance story, and you've got chapter 1 is from the perspective of the female lead, and chapter 2 is from the perspective of the male lead. Sorry, it's Joanne Penn in the room. I'm fanboying now. It's like you look around the room and you're trying to meet people's eyes, and you're like, oh my God, it's Joanne Penn. Sorry. So if you want to do that and you want different voices, if you're using humans, and again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you've now got 2 voice artists. And so your costs have increased because the complexity's increased. With 11 Labs, as much as any of the other platforms out there, the cost is still $50 or thereabouts because you've paid a subscription to get a bunch of characters. So I pay the highest tier because my lovely assistants are creating my audiobooks for me, and they're still running to catch up with the backlog of work that I've got for them, backlog of manuscripts. And so I'm paying the highest tier, which is $330. For $330, I get 2 million characters. 2 million characters for my books is 6 or 7 books that I can create from that many characters. My books are in the 60 to 70,000 word range average, something like that. So $330 creates 6 books, 8 books, something like that. Dual POV, so that's where I get the $50 from. Dual POV, again, it's still $60. In 11 Labs, and it's probably true elsewhere in other platforms, on 11 Labs, in beta at the moment, they have a tool for drop your entire manuscript and press a button. It's glitchy at the moment. They're quite open about that, which is why it's in beta. They're still testing it out. That will, in time, become a functioning tool that is what you're going to want to use. The thing I just showed you, live demonstration, which is you can put a chunk of a chapter in, or you can put the whole chapter in, depending on how long your chapter is. That, at the moment, is how we're doing it. So you're doing a chunk at a time, chunk at a chunk at a time, and you use a tool to cobble them together, and you've got an audiobook. And it's really quite seamless. But whole audiobook with one click, instead of your 6 to 8 hours, it's now 2 minutes. And you press a button, you walk away, and you go and write 6 chapters of your book that you're working on, and you come back and it's done. Multi-voice narration. And what I'm talking about here is audiobook plays. This does not yet exist, but I'm pretty sure this is where it's going. So you would take your manuscript and you would highlight this person's voice, male lead, and then the police inspector, you give him a different voice, and the central character's mother, you give her another voice, and throughout your manuscript. So you've got to take the time to tag these people, but then you upload it into the machine, and the machine takes all those tags and gives everyone a different voice, and suddenly you've got an audiobook play. What would that cost? $50. You can't do that. No, you can do that because you have to get an entire team of voice artists. It's just really, really expensive. And for some people, maybe actually, for your work, that outlay is worthwhile, and you know that you're going to recoup that cost. For most of us, actually, the cost is just too high. For a lot of people, the cost of producing that first audiobook at $3,000 is just too high. Like I said, that multi-voice narration thing does not yet exist, but I'm fairly sure it's coming because they're adding new stuff all the time. Other uses. So, with Adam's permission, I'm sure a lot of you know Adam Beswick, a TikTok guy. He used a different piece of software to create this avatar, and then used 11 Labs to provide a voice, and I'm just going to play that, I hope. Now, what have I done wrong here? I do apologise. This was working. We're going to come back to that. It animates the avatar, and he speaks, and he's narrating Adam Beswick's a chunk of Adam Beswick's book, and he's putting that out on TikTok. So that's one thing you can do with Voice AI. I'll try and make that work when we get to the end. People talk about engaging with your audience on a personal level. How about at Christmas, you send everyone on your newsletter list a recorded, your voice, Merry Christmas, that comes out on your newsletter. There's a little thing that they press, and you wish them a Merry Christmas. How about if, when they're filling in their subscription form, you record their birthday, and then you automate your newsletter system, very cleverly in your website, to send them a happy birthday on their birthday. It's endless. really, the uses for voice AI are limited only by your imagination. So you can do all sorts of stuff with it. It's not just about audiobooks.
You mean, I ask?
And now it works.
I mean, if the fairies will not lend King Athos their magic in a time of war, then I have no choice but to take it from you. She sneers, her face still hidden in the shadows. And how do you propose to do that, Troy?
Just another use. You can do all sorts of stuff with this. So Voice Library, when I first subscribed to 11 Labs, and again, I'm just focused on one platform because it's the one I use. There's lots of others out there, and I can't talk about them because I haven't really experimented with them. This one at the time I thought was pretty good. When I first subscribed, they didn't have this voice library. They're adding new tools all the time, and I think they're adding new tools because people are pushing more voices in, and they've got access to them. So, Marcus, authoritative and deep, middle-aged American male. Knightley, we heard Knightley earlier, old British male. Natasha, Valley girl, young American female. There's a huge library of voices for you to pick from, and you can go and click in there on any of the samples and just, is this the voice I want? And you can play around with it and do different stuff. You can clone other voices. So going back to James Earl Jones, I believe I'm correct in saying that he has had his voice cloned because he won't be around forever, and if they want to use Darth Vader in future movies, he's given them his voice. If you want to clone a voice, you need about 2 minutes of quality quality recording of their voice. As an experiment, I went and found a famous actor on YouTube and recorded their voice and pushed it through this. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to get sued. But it recorded their voice, cloned it, and produced, and I had that actor's voice at my disposal. I didn't use it because, again, I don't want to get sued, but it was as an experiment. So you can clone, if you want, let's say you want very specifically a voice from Nashville, or a voice from Louisiana, or a voice from Scotland, a particular region in Scotland, because the accent in Edinburgh is very different from the accent in Glasgow, and you know that your listeners are going to be able to tell the difference. You can go and find a person, potentially a voice actor, and pay them an amount of money to record their voice.
I was just going to ask, can you do that with your own voice? Because I know a lot of...
So the question is, can you do that with your own voice? Yes, you absolutely can. One of my series is being narrated by one of my assistants. We recorded her voice because it was just very plummy and English and perfect for the role that we wanted to use it for. So yes, my voice is in my 11 Labs. Please don't use it. I'm going to play a couple of examples just to show the range. So this is one of my books. Is that going to work? What do I do?
My right, next to me on my right. The new deputy captain was silently contemplating something. I couldn't tell what he was thinking, but he had a faraway yet focused look to his face, and I left him to his thoughts. To my left, Barbie looked to be doing much the same. I had asked if she wanted to join me because I hoped it would help to give her some form of closure on the scary experiences of the last 24 hours, and Jermaine was standing behind her, there to protect me, but very much also there to support his friend.
Young American female.
Cassie focused on her spell. Refusing to let doubt enter her mind, she pushed more energy into the ground. She was going to get one shot to make this work, or they were in serious trouble. Whoever was inside the hood was stronger or simply more experienced. They were outmatched, and the man in the hood knew it. Cassie focused on her...
There's a rule about self-promo in this group, and these are all my covers.
Drove his Honda Accord eastbound on Highway 50, staying in the slow lane. Not that it mattered much where he drove. Every lane was the slow lane. Sacramento traffic had worsened the past few years with the increasing population and the perpetual roadwork construction.
That's just a very short demonstration of how much range there is. You can pretty much get any accent you want, and you have to play around a bit. And not every voice in the 11 Labs library, and I'm sure it's the same on all the other platforms, not every voice is as good as the other voices. Some of them, the cadence isn't quite right for your work. You'll play around a little bit and find what works for you.
Onion drove his Honda.
No, there we go. The point. Yes, sorry. Yes, we'll get to that. So the lady was asking about languages. So we're going to cover that very soon. Thank you. Where was I? Yesterday's high-powered author panel, there's these 5 lovely ladies at the front, and I think I'm correct in saying 3 of them were talking about using voice AI to create audio work that they are selling. And they certainly said things about doing direct sales. Direct sales is one of the new buzzwords, and a lot of people are moving in that direction. The point for me, and this is one of my websites, I have a small press, I can produce audiobooks very quickly for very little money, and I own all the IP. No one else involved, I'm not splitting it with anyone else, and so I can sell them for whatever price I want. I can also control, I don't know if you can see that, it says get 20% off when you buy 2 or more audiobooks. Buy 1, get 1 free. Buy 2, get the 3rd free. Make a boxed set of them. At the moment, if you've got different voice actors, let's say you're producing audiobooks with voice actors and putting them on Audible, that you cannot group those together. So you couldn't take your 2 book 1s, book 1 from this series and book 1 from that series, because it's different voice actors. You can't bundle them anywhere apart from on your own website. On your own website, because you own all the IP, you can do whatever you want. So you can give away free audiobooks. Anyone know how to do that on Audible? Because I've not figured it out. You actually can you? Damn it. Oh, no, I know what you're saying, but you can't run a promotion. Yeah, you get your free codes. I know what you're saying. You can't say, hey world, have this for free, or like you can run a Kindle Countdown deal, 99 cents to America or UK, and give away thousands of copies in a 24-hour period or over a week or whatever. You can't do it with audiobooks. Here you can, because you control it all. What's it like with dialogue? That's a big question that comes up. I think it's really good. I've got a sample I'm going to play you, and in retrospect, I was going through this morning and saying, it's not actually the best example, but I'm just going to play it and you can listen.
Suddenly, frowning. When he spotted her, he waved towards the door. Don't worry, he called. Grant doesn't bite. I'm not worried about Grant. Oh, Wade, he does bite. Sit well clear. She shook her head, somehow feeling a little lighter in the face of humor. She let out a faint sigh. I don't know what they think I'm going to offer.
I probably could have picked a better sample, but I don't think that's bad. Talking with some of my friends as they were producing these, there was one example where there's a piece of dialogue and there's 3 sisters, and it managed to pick a different tone for each sister. It's not quite as rangy. Honestly, it's not quite as rangy as you would have with a human. So you get, I guess, something slightly more dramatic with the human, a more dramatic shift. I think the shifts here are good enough. Like I said, I apologise that wasn't the best sample. Go and play with it yourselves. You can do this for free. You can go on most of these platforms and they have a free try it out bit where you get 500,000 characters to go and do stuff before you're committing to actually giving them any money. It does dialogue quite well, and so you pick a male voice and it will get to a female. Don't ask me how it knows, by the way, because I haven't figured that bit out, but it will get to a female character and speak as a male actor would, trying to be a female. And it will do the same for a female and drop the voice an octave to do the male voice role. It's very clever, and it's getting better all the time. Other languages, yes.
Does it remember? So like in chapter 1, if you have somebody, does it remember in chapter 5 and use the same tone?
Yes. Leanne, would you endorse that? Sorry, the question was, does it remember to use the same tone of voice for characters throughout? Leanne, would you? apologies for the people listening at home. They're not getting any of that. We're going to move on. Sorry, Leah, I should have called you out. Doesn't matter. The question earlier was about other languages, and we'll do more questions at the end. Other languages. So, I don't speak Spanish, but I've played extracts to Spanish-speaking people. I actually did it in Spain, and they assure me that it's very good. Are there Spanish people in the room? Okay, I'm just going to play it.
A la cabeza, nos dirigimos fácilmente a la cabaña que, según Germain, era de Jack. Mi mayordomo sabía exactamente dónde estaba, pero yo estaba irremediablemente perdido. Sin Germain o un mapa o tal vez algunas migas de pan para encontrar el camino de vuelta, podría llevarme...
Yeah, okay, there's some people in the crowd saying that's excellent. Provided your translation is accurate, and I can't help you with that bit, provided your translation is accurate, there's no reason why this won't be as good in other languages as it is in English. Again, going back to what I was saying about they're constantly adding new tools, when I first went on here, the Spanish was terrible. It sounded like somebody attempting very bad, like they don't speak, as if an English-speaking person is reading Spanish and they've no idea what the words actually say. So it's improving all the time. Let's do German. Let's not do German.
Worthington zog amüsiert die Augenbrauen hoch. Erst seit ihrer Rückkehr nach England. Ich habe am Ausgang der königlichen Suiten am Kai von Southampton gewartet. Aber es ist mir irgendwie gelungen, sie dort zu verpassen. Ich erinnerte mich, dass ich den normalen Ausgang gewählt hatte. Meine Firma wurde erst vor 3 Wochen...
No, I do speak German, and I think that's really quite good. Again, it comes down to the quality of your translation, but there's no reason why this won't work in every language that is available on the platform that you choose to use. 11 Labs and all the others have tiers, so you can buy in for, let's say the bottom tier I think is $50. So you sign up to spend $50 a month on this, but it's not endless. If you want to record one audiobook, you record your one audiobook, you're done, you cancel your subscription. You own the IP. It doesn't go away because you've downloaded it as an MP3 file. It's now sitting on your computer. You've got it forever. If things improve, if you want to do an edit, if you've changed the title of your book for whatever reason, all those things, you can just go back and re-record it. Just create a new one. If you've used a human, that's difficult because you potentially got to do the entire book again. The platform, let's say the platform you're using comes up with new tools that makes it better. Let's say that multi-voice narration thing comes out and you're like, no, actually that's what I want for all my books. But I've already done all my audiobooks. Well, if it's only sort of $50 per book or thereabouts, does it matter? Just redo them because it's cheap and it's fast and it's easy. I've been asked a couple of times whether I feel this is putting voice narrators or voice actors out of work. And the answer to that is yes, maybe. Maybe some of them. It's an emerging technology, we can't help that, we can't change that. For the most part, I think that the people who will use this initially are those who are never going to spend the money to make the audiobook in the first place because it's too expensive. $30,000 to produce a 10-book series or more. And then really, $30,000 is probably the cheapest you're going to get away with. Instead, it's almost no money at all. And I've pretty much got to the end, so we're going to do questions if people have got questions in a minute. Voice AI is improving all the time. That's a message hopefully I've put across. You go back probably to the start of this year, and it was still quite clunky, and people talked about it sounding robotic or mechanical, as if you were listening to an audiobook or to an ebook being played through Alexa. That is no longer the case, and hopefully I've demonstrated that. It's cheap, it works, it's fast. You can use it for all sorts of stuff. And honestly, that last point, for foreign languages where the return is less, it's probably the only option most people have got. That's me, I'm done. If you've got questions, you're going to have to come down to the microphone, please.
Do you have any experience with characters who have accents? So you have, like, most of your characters are American, you might have one who has a Scottish accent, for example. Do you have any experience?
Right, okay. Okay, that's a really good question. So, if you had, while you're producing this audiobook, dialogue where somebody has got a very distinct accent that you need to be different. Now, your voice actor, human would be able to do that. And they might do it poorly if they're not good at accents. Here, what you do is you upload all the text up to the point where you're going to have the voice of that character, and you use one voice, and then you switch, and you use a different voice for that. And so what I was saying about you can do multi-voice narration, you can do that now. It's just going to take you longer. And you can upload almost line by line your audiobook. And let's say it takes you now a week. What's the cost? Apart from your time, $50 or thereabouts, because that's the cost of playing on this system. So yes, to answer your question, if you want to do someone with a very distinct accent in the middle of your audiobook, you absolutely can do that. It didn't pick your question up, did it? Because the microphone's not working. I'm sure they got from my answer.
Hi, could you expound on any post-production, so proofing the audiobook? Is there any need for tweaking? Leanne mentioned training the AI, so how much kind of pre and post-production has to go around getting the completely finished audiobook?
I don't do any post-production.
Okay.
Pre-production, what you've got to do is things like chapter heads. So your chapter heading, if it doesn't have a full stop at the start of it, it will say chapter 1 and walk straight into whatever the first line is. So I take my manuscript, I take out all the copyright stuff at the front and the back matter, and I go through and make sure there's punctuation at the end of things like chapter heads. You also have to what? What was I going to say? I apologise. No, you also have to create an opening credit thing and a closing credit thing, and you can create an audio sample. I put and again, I'm not endorsing BookFunnel, but I'm using BookFunnel for the delivery of my audiobooks because they've got an audiobook tool. So somebody buys an audiobook from my website and they get delivery from BookFunnel.
Okay, and a quick other question. Jokingly before, you were saying your voice that you've cloned is in 11 Labs and to please not use it.
Yes.
So I haven't looked at 11 Labs yet, but can you tell very clearly what's a completely synthetic voice, what's been a cloned voice? And for us, if we're going through the library, can you sort of have a guarantee that that the voice that you're selecting is definitely a synthetic voice and that you're not accidentally going to be taking somebody's...
Oh, no. If the voice is in the library, you can use it.
Right, okay.
If the voice is in 11 Labs or whatever platform you're using, you can use it. It's not, I'm not saying,
Okay.
I don't think you can actually see my voice because that's in my thing.
Right,
I was
okay.
making a joke about that. You
Okay,
can't
I
get
suddenly
to
was
my
already
voice.
thinking, Jesus.
Sorry, that went over, I should have made that clearer.
Hi there, thank you for this. I have been playing around with 11 Labs. It's amazing. And one thing I ran up against was if a name is mispronounced or there's just one sentence where the cadence is off, is there any way to go in a post-production situation and just fix it?
Yes. I think there's various ways of doing it. I think it's a longer answer than I can
Okay.
give here.
But it is possible.
Yeah. So if you go through your audiobook afterwards and find issues like the machine is mispronouncing a word, potentially you're going to have to do it phonetically. So rewrite it phonetically so it can pick it up. So you're
Re-record
misspelling
it.
the word so that it gets it correct.
Okay,
And
that
so
makes
if
a
you've
lot
got
of sense.
contentious words, maybe you want to think about that in your pre-production thing to test out the voice to make sure
Yep.
it can actually read them correctly.
That's great. Thank you so much for that. And then one more quick question. If you wanted to sell a book you created yourself on Amazon, can you do that? Do you know?
No, this is a really good question. And I should have touched on this. If you're creating an audiobook using artificial intelligence, you can't sell it anywhere currently that I know of other than your website.
Okay.
So Audible will spit it out. Kobo, there you go. Apparently Kobo, wonderful Kobo. Good. I love this. Everyone knows more than me. So yes, you can apparently upload it to, I'm going to go and do that later today. You can upload your audiobooks to some platforms, and I think I'm expecting that to expand in the future.
Two quick questions. One is, you talked about foreign language.
Yes.
Suppose that you have a character, say a British character who's speaking, who drops in a French phrase.
Yes.
Does it pick that up as French?
It will read it in French, yes.
Okay.
Yes. But again,
as part of
experiment
dialogue,
with that.
right? And the other thing, when I was listening to one of your sections, and I've seen this too, do you need sometimes to go back and add extra dialogue tags for the audio version you know, if you're reading the book,
Yep.
you can tell that there's that the different speakers, because different paragraph or there's some other thing. But sometimes it's hard if you have two people speaking back and forth to keep track in audio of who's speaking.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I've not experienced a problem with that. Maybe there will be. It depends how you write it. I'm stood here not as an expert, but as a speaker on the subject, because I've been playing with it and I was asked to come and speak about it. I don't know everything, and certainly I'm not a representative for Voice AI. I'm here to tell you about what I've been doing with Voice AI. I don't have the answer to that
Great.
question, but I think that that's something you could probably play around with and fix.
Thank you very much.
I am here asking questions for those who are online.
Oh, super.
You've already answered 2 of them, so thank you. The third question I have is, what has been the listener response to your AI-generated audiobooks?
They can't tell it's a machine.
Do you anywhere in production acknowledge it was AI-generated?
No.
Thank you.
Oh, that was my question. I use this technology for my day job. I do commercial IVRs for banks and healthcare and all that. It's fantastic. You should look at Speechify's voiceover tool.
Sure.
It allows you to do the multiple voice narration.
There you go. I hope everyone heard that. So that tool I'm speculating is coming is already here on another platform.
Yeah, talking about pre-production and strange accents, words, and things like that. For example, I write speculative fiction, which means that I have to create words in new places. Can you teach the AI that prior to producing the audiobook?
No, I don't know the answer to that question. Okay. So you're talking about imaginary words or made-up words, all words made up. Yeah, so you're creating words, which I guess if you're doing fantasy stuff probably happens quite a lot. I think potentially you'd have to play around with the voice doing that word and phoneticize it to make it say it correctly, and then you just copy it back in. I don't think that that's an insurmountable challenge.
As an expert representative, just kidding. I just have a quick question. I've got a nonfiction book that has quotes and various types of styles. Do you think this would still work with sampling my voice with like 11 Labs, for example, and then trying to do that voice? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
trying
Yeah,
to do that
yeah.
with the emphasis and everything.
You would have to record your voice and see how it came across, and see how
Just
whether you're
test
pleased with it after. Yeah. It will take you a couple of minutes to put your voice through the cloning machine on 11 Labs. I'm sure it's the same on the other platforms. You can then put some of your manuscript in and listen to yourself narrating it. Whether you're happy with it or not, I can't tell, and whether you then need to redo your cloning sample with more emphasis.
Got it. Play with it a little.
You play around with it, I think,
thanks.
is the thing. More online questions?
One more question. Is there a tool you prefer for stitching files together?
I use Audacity. I guess the final note on this, if you want to know more about it, if you want to gain more knowledge, YouTube is an enormous source of videos of people telling you exactly how they do this stuff. So I learned how to do all of this and how to stitch the files together and how to upload them and change the bit rate and all that stuff on YouTube. And you watch a 5-minute tutorial and you then know how to do it and you know where to find the tools for it. Any
You
more?
already mentioned the celebrity in our midst.
Yeah.
Her podcast would be another way we could help people.
There we go. There we go. Joe Penn's podcast. Any more for any more? Come round, sir. We have a few minutes left.
So when you add text to the box, how much text can you put in there? And if you have an error somewhere in the middle, and you have to put the text back in, and does it, when you generate the text, does it use up more of your characters?
Yes, absolutely. Every time you press generate, it will chew up your characters. I think the box is 50,000 characters or something. No, maybe it's 5,000. I genuinely don't remember now because I have wonderful assistants who do it for me. I haven't actually been on the platform in weeks.
Not true, you were just on it.
Shut up. Yeah, I think it's something like 5,000 characters, which is 2 pages of a A4, something like that.
So my question gets a little bit off of topic here, but my question is, and I'm happy to withdraw it if it's not proper, but I have books, want to create audiobooks. I've also seen now that there are companies that'll do production and distribution. Is there any thoughts at all to comparisons between using AI versus one of those services? And if it's not appropriate, I'm happy to pull it.
Because everyone can do exactly as they please. They can spend the money to do, have a voice actor do it. They can choose to do this. They can choose to sell the rights to another company and have them produce it. You have a full range of options. This is just a new option that I don't think many people have actually considered, because it was never good enough until very recently.
Are you able to sell on Amazon and Kobo and other platforms using this?
Yeah, so we actually answered that already. And the answer is yes for Kobo, and what was the other one?
Google Play.
Google Play, and no for everywhere else at the moment. And yes, you can put these on YouTube.
For those newbie authors who 30,000 is just outside of the universe, and even 50 feels like it could be a mountain, what have you found in terms of income from audiobooks, and what would you kind of recommend for a new author?
I don't know that I want to make recommendations. I make a lot of money off of audiobooks because I've got 80 something titles in Audible, so I make a lot of money off of audiobooks. I'm also aware that because Audible take a fat chunk of the money, they pay me a portion of royalties, so I'm probably leaving money on the table. So as I've created new works over the last couple of years, I haven't been putting them onto Audible. I've been stockpiling them and waiting for this technology to catch up. I'm now putting those books onto my own website for direct sales. I'm selling the same kind of quantities as I am on Audible. Now, you're not going to get organic sales that you would, because people sign up for Audible's library thing, and then they potentially getting recommendations or whatever, but they've got a library membership, so they might not want your book because they've got to buy it, where they can get a different book from Audible. So you're not going to get some of those sales. But I'm getting enough sales from selling direct that I'm making more money than I would have had I put them onto Audible. So there's a balance here, and it's for you to decide what you want to do. I like having control of it. I like being able to do whatever I want to with it. I like being able to give stuff away for free to tease people into then getting more, because you're eroding that resistance to audiobooks or whatever it is. So I hope that answered that question.
So is the limitations for using an AI-generated audiobook for platforms like Audible, where it's prohibited, is that only for synthetic voices? Or like if you did clone your own voice, could you then use that on the Audible platform?
No, because it's AI.
All
it's
AI
the AI
okay.
thing that they are
Thank you.
resisting. You need to come around, sorry.
Amazon just this week announced their beta testing with AI.
Yeah. So I don't think that will change your ability to put your voice-generated books onto Audible. I think you'll have to, if Amazon have a tool, it'll be Amazon's tool. And I think they're suggesting that the royalty rate is going to be 40%, which is better than they're giving people now, unless you're exclusive or whatever. We're in the last minute.
1 minute left.
Oh.
So, do you put links to your, so I always have links in the back of the book, go join my newsletter. Do you put links that tell about your Shopify store?
Yes, and various places. So I advertise a lot on Facebook. If you're interested in making lots of money using Facebook ads, I've got a talk at 3:45 this afternoon. On my Facebook ads, when you get to the bottom, because it's the ebook, you've only got one link button, the Shop Now button, that goes to my ebook on Amazon, because I'm all in on KU. But on that ad are links to paperbacks and hardbacks and audiobooks, and that takes them directly to my website, my Shopify store, where they're buying it directly from me. Did that answer the question? I think with 20 seconds to go, we are done. Thank you very much. You've been wonderful.